plethora of information. Very few people have the knowledge and the ability to express it in words the way you do.
Robert, it's taken me 82 years to get where I'm at today, and it hasn't been a very easy ride over the years. It's been kind of a bumpy ride, actually. But I find myself today being aware of things that when I first began this journey that I wouldn't even be. I didn't even have the wildest dreams of what I was going to encounter. And as I said, over the years, as I've learned more and more, and ended up eventually having face-to-face meetings with some of them from out there, it's changed my life to such a point that I'll never quite ever be the same, you know. It's opened up doors and windows for me that I never imagined when I first started this trip.
Yeah, I can see that, Bob. I mean, from talking to you on a personal level with you so many times, I mean, every time you've talked to me, you've always brought something new to the table, and I'm amazed as always. I mean, it's just incredible the experiences you've had. To be honest with you, I wish I'm a little envious sometimes, I guess I could say, because I wish I could have experienced those experiences you've had. Yes, you take the good with the bad, but I would never trade that for anything in the world as far as I'm concerned.
Well, Bob, you may have had some experiences of your own that you just may not be able to recall. It's been my experience over the years when I've talked to people from all over the world that I find that all of them have some kind of hidden something or other in their past that either they don't want to remember or they can't remember. But it's been my experience that hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people that I've encountered over the years have had first-hand experiences with our so-called cousins from the stars. And slowly people are beginning to recall. They're beginning to remember. And you talk to them and you trigger a little bit of recollection sometimes. And it's a bit of a shock to them when they realize that they've had experiences of their own. Some of them have just they haven't wanted to remember because they would have thought they were going crazy or losing their mind. Well, I went through that some years ago. I thought for a long time that I was beginning to lose my mind, and then I reached a point that I had convinced myself that I had lost my mind. But I was able to survive that, and I've reached a point now, which I kind of look at and laugh about, that, I'm stage 3. I considered that I'm sane and the whole rest of the world is nuts.
I'm right with you, Bob.
So I find that, I'm comfortable now that I've made that trip and I've gotten over those obstacles and I've accepted the reality of the experiences that I've had. And, I'm not the same person I was when I began this. These kind of things will change you, Robert. They broaden your view of the world and your view of the universe to such a point that you look back and you wonder, my God, how the hell was I ever that stupid?
Well,
but, I reached a point now in my life where I don't worry about it anymore. If people want to laugh at me and make fun of me and, tell me I've gone over the edge, that's fine. It doesn't bother me a bit because they simply don't know what they're talking. If they were to have the experiences that I've had and had the first face-to-face, experiences that their lives will change as well. I think in time that's probably what's going to happen.
I agree with you. I have a question for you, and I actually never asked you this, even when we had our own personal private conversations. Bob, did you ever talk with Jesse Marcel Jr.?
Oh, I've met Jesse Marcel Jr. many times, yeah. Yeah,
See,
I've been at conferences
knew that.
where he was a speaker, and, I spoke at Roswell twice, and I met him, and he's a delightful man. He's a retired Air Force I think he's a retired general now.
Oh.
He was a medical officer in the Air Force for a number of years. I never had the privilege of meeting Jesse Marcel Sr. Before he died, but Jesse Marcel Jr. I've met a number of. He's a delightful man.
Well, I kind of figured you probably would have met him. I mean, in your journeys, you've met so many incredible people, and it just reaffirms all the experiences that you have. Because you look, it's not just 1 or 2 or 20 or even 100 or 1,000. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people who've gone through the same experiences. And I think we've all come together. I mean, including me, Bob. I mean, you know why I'm doing this, because we've talked about it. It's about enlightening human race to prepare themselves for what is to come.
Well, Robert, it's a little bit larger than that, I think. I've concluded that this whole matter, this entire matter, and damn, I hate the word UFO. I detest the damn term. There are no UFOs. We've known what they've been for over 60 years. So we don't have unidentified flying objects. We know exactly who they are and what they are. Some of them are ours, some of them are theirs, and some of them are Nazis. And that's another story we probably don't have time tonight to get into. But what's going to happen, Bob, is this awareness, this coming to terms with this extraterrestrial presence. It's going to bring about an expansion of consciousness in people. It's going to change the world forever. And it's long overdue. That's one of the reasons why I keep doing what I'm doing. I'm reaching a point, Robert. Damn it, I'm getting old and I'm getting tired. But traveling for me is not as much fun as it used to be.
Well, Bob, I always tell you the same thing. You got to stick around, because it'd be real tough for me if you're not around.
Yeah, well,
for a lot of other people.
Yeah, everybody says I got to stick around. Well, I've been sticking around for 82 years, Robert, and I'm going to go home one day. And I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of homesick. But in the meantime, I feel what I'm doing is important, and I feel that what others like myself have been doing is important. It's important to bring about this expansion of consciousness. Robert, we've got to come to terms with who we are, what we are, how we got to be here, and where we're going. That's the only thing that's going to save the species, I think, is this expansion of awareness, this expansion of consciousness. And if we're going to step out there, and I believe we will eventually, and take our rightful place in the stars with our extended family out there, we're going to have to make some, take some large steps here before we can't continue in this stupid old ignorant thing way we've been for the last several hundred years. We've got to change.
I couldn't agree with you more, Bob.
I see it happening, and I'm kind of encouraged by what I've been seeing. That's what I'm doing, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to a conference here in Orange County here this month. I've accepted another invite to speak in Philadelphia in October. And I've even accepted an invitation to go to Johannesburg, South Africa in November. And if I can stay in fairly decent health and make those trips, I think it's important.
Well, I'm going to try and help that along if I can in any way that I can in any capacity. Because, I'm biased, Bob. I love you. So there's no denying there's no denying that. I had a question for you. I mean, everything that these sociopaths have done up till now has been a cyclical cycle. Do you think they're going to try and bring us to war one more time before we get any kind of disclosure?
Well, we're in the middle of a couple of wars right now, Robert. I tell you this, and I there's a firm belief, a deeply held belief, that there is not going to be another Third World War. That our cousins, our family, the guys that I have encountered, ones I've met, have indicated to me that they are going to make certain that there is not another nuclear war. They literally, Bob, they brought an end to the Cold War. In the relationships with Reagan and Gorbachev, our cousins, our family from out there, literally orchestrated the end of the Cold War by making it very clear and making it very apparent to both the Soviets and to the Americans during the 80s and 90s that they were not about to tolerate a thermonuclear war because the planet is too precious. The planet Earth, this beautiful zoological garden we live in, is venerated by them, and they consider this planet to be a jewel. And they consider the flora and fauna on this zoological garden to be precious. So, term I've been using for them, they're not visitors, Robert. I think you've known that for years.
Yes.
These guys are not visiting. For God's sake, they've been here from the beginning of human history. The term that I like to use is they're custodians. They literally are nurturing and caring for the planet and all of the flora and fauna on it. And the human race is part of the fauna. And they're nurturing us, they're encouraging us, and they're trying to keep us from blowing ourselves up. So I'm very positive about the fact that there may be a continuation of little wars like what we've got now in, Afghanistan, Iraq, different places. That may continue for some time. But there's not going to be a major exchange. There will not be a major Third World War because the custodians are not going to allow it. They made that point very clear.
Well, you're talking about when they shut down the missiles at will at, I can't remember off the top of my head at the Air Force Base, but they shut down how many? I think it was 6 or 7 missile silos instantaneously.
Robert, they did more than just shut them down. Malmstrom Air Force Base was one of the places where it happened. It happened also in Minot, North Dakota. It happened outside of St. Petersburg in the Soviet Union, or I think it was Leningrad, what they called it. But they didn't merely just shut down the system. They hovered over the silos, and when the technicians got inside the silo, they found out that the warheads had been melted, and the guidance system, the computerized guidance system, had been scrambled so badly that if the missiles had ever gotten out of the silo, God knows where they would have gone. But it wouldn't have made much of a difference. All they would have done was, make a little hole in the ground. There certainly was not going to be a nuclear exchange because the warheads had been melted. The guidance systems had been scrambled so badly. They made that so clear to the Soviets, and they made that so clear to us during the Reagan administration, that before you know it, the first thing we know is happening is Reagan and Gorbachev are having summits. Right. They had summit after summit after summit, and the next damn thing you know, the Cold War is over. The Berlin Wall comes down, the Soviet Union implodes, and so our guys in positions of power have become believers because they've had first-hand experience. They've seen it first. And one of the things I keep hoping is that in time that some of our top military people, some of our top politicians will admit, as I and a few other people have admitted, that they've had a face-to-face meeting with some of these guys. Damn it, Robert, these guys are family. I mean, they're literally cousins.
Well, Bob, I agree with you 100%. I got another question for you, and I've actually never even asked you this, and it just dawned on me to ask you this now. And it breaks my heart, this all happened, but was the Kennedy assassination related to a duality here? And it's a two-part. He was going to get rid of the Fed, and already he had started printing U.S. silver certificates. And I know he was going to dismantle the CIA, the FBI, and also he was going to release all the documents on UFO for the public. Well,
God bless him, Jack Kennedy had to go, according to these guys. the sons of bitches that are running our secret government, the ones that are in charge of what we call the black government, the shadow government. Jack Kennedy had to go, according to those guys, because he had a number of things in mind. One of the things, he was threatening the Federal Reserve. He started printing our own money from our own treasury. Going to put the Federal Reserve out of business. And he had his eye on the CIA because they had gotten so rotten that they had lied to him so many times that he said that he was going to wrap them up and get rid of them. So he made so damn many enemies, Robert, that there was no way that Jack Kennedy could have survived because he took on too many people.
Well, do you think that the mob was part of that?
Oh, yeah. No question about it. Yeah, because he and his brother had taken on the mob, and they were after him, too. I mean, Jack Kennedy had to stand in line if you wanted to take a shot at him. The point is, the poor guy was, he was honest. He had money. He had a family that had money. He didn't have to kowtow to anybody. He didn't owe anybody anything. And when he got in office, he had a whole bunch of things he wanted to do. And his days were numbered, Bob, from the day he got elected. And, interesting, if you look at their history, the same damn thing happened to Lincoln. He started printing money from the Treasury. And he wanted to eliminate the bankers and get those big power groups out of there. Well, poor old Abe had to go as well. I think the young man in the office right now is learning some pretty hard lessons. I think he's kind of gotten enough, he's learned enough since he's been in office that you don't upset the apple cart too many times. You may rock the boat a little bit, but you do what little you can, and you don't push too many buttons, and you don't make too many enemies.
So do you think that maybe he was told that he could make a difference, and then when he got into office, then maybe he realized that he's just another puppet like so many presidents down the line?
You're talking about Obama?
Yes.
Yeah, I suspect it's been quite of an education for poor old Barack. Yeah, I think he's had quite an education. He's not the same young man who got elected, if you notice some of the things he said, some of the things he's doing. No,
I also know that he was backed by a lot of Illuminati, big power broke money structures too. So I don't know whether he was part of that group or not. I mean, how does a one-term senator become president? That's what I've always questioned.
Well, Bob, you can't get elected in this country without, tapping into the billions. If you don't have a source of billions and billions of dollars, you're never going to get into an elected office in this. That's one of the things that I think is so heartbreaking about it, is that our Constitution is literally in tatters. And I'm afraid it's gone on far enough that eventually in time we may have another revolution in this country, Robert. Because there will come a time when people are going to say, I've had enough.
But that's it. Because I think everybody has had enough. I mean, I've told you this over and over. I've had enough. I've had enough. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of being lied to. I'm tired of being demoralized. I'm tired of having everything taken away from me by a faceless shadow enemy.
Well, you got hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people out there, Bob, who are saying the same thing. These people, and Americans, are not stupid. And you've got people all over this country that are beginning to wake up and pay attention, and they're realizing that they're being conned and they're being lied to, and their treasure, their family treasure, the investment, the hard work they've done, it's all being stolen from them by a bunch of con artists. And in time, we're going to reach a point that people are going to stand up and say, hey, I've had enough of this crap. I'm not going to take this anymore. I hope I'm not around to see that happen. But there's also, I think, a very hopeful future, because I think that we're probably going going to be confronted by the reality of our extended family before too long. I don't want to make any predictions about disclosure or any of that. But a form of disclosure, Bob, is already underway, and I think that our family, our extended cousins out there, extended family, are going to up the ante subtly, gently, slowly over the next few years, and they're showing themselves more and more. And, they're hovering over airports and over cities and shutting down airports in China already, for God's sake. They're all over the damn place, and they're subtly and gently upping the ante, as it were, and I think they're going to continue that, and the reality of their presence, I think, is going to be coming out, and that's going to change everything.
Okay.
It's not only going to change our government.
I got another question for you, Bob. I mean,
it's going to change everything on the planet.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bob. I was going to ask you a question. Finish that up.
Well, I did. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. The other question I had was this then. I mean, and it's obvious to me. I don't know how it is obvious to others or whether they see it at all. But why would we need to get disclosure from something that millions of people already know exists from any government?
Well, you're talking about millions. I suspect you're right. There are probably millions of people who know the reality. But they suspect it. They had a sense. They kind of felt it. They hold it into their hearts, and I think they probably know that we're not alone, and we've never been alone. But that's a lot of different from having out admission all over the press, all over the world. There's a big difference between 10 million people knowing the truth and 5 billion people knowing the truth. But we're getting there.
It just frustrates me so much that I call them the sheeple, because I always call us the 3%ers, Bob. 3%ers being, if there's 6.5 billion people on this planet, we're 3% of that who are awake. And there's that old adage of that riddle. If it takes 90 days or if you put a, let me get this right, so the analogy comes through correctly. If you take one lily and put it in a pond, and it multiplies every day, and it takes 90 days to fill that pond halfway, how many more days will it take to fill the rest of that pond? And the answer is always 1. And see, that's what I'm looking forward to, that day where the rest of the pond is filled in 1 day. Everybody becomes awakened to the fact of the unreality that we've been told and taught, to our true reality, to our next level of understanding, a new frequency, a new mindset, love, peace, happiness. I look so forward to that. I can't tell you how much I look forward to that. And every time I hear you talk, you touch my heart, because that's what I want and that's what I see. I can touch it, I can taste it, but I just can't put my arms around it.
Well, you're yearning for the tipping point, as it were. You're hoping for that moment, and I think you probably will live to see it, where, as you say, the tipping point where all of a sudden the pond is filled with lilies. And you sit back and say, where in the world did all them damn lilies come from? Well, literally overnight. It's going to happen. I don't know. I don't predict anymore. I don't make these predictions. But your point is well made, and it's going to happen. And I suspect you're going to see it in your life, your lifetime. I don't think I will. I don't think it's going to happen before I go home, but I could be wrong.
Well, I hope that's not the case. I would love to be holding your hand when that happens, really, and holding the hands of many others that I've met in this movement for truth and light, wisdom. And here's a thought for you. The only people who should be in charge of anything on this planet, and this is my personal Bob. The only people that should be in charge of anything on this planet are people of wisdom, love, and knowledge for the betterment of mankind. But yet we have, everything is backwards. We have a money structure which puts these people in places of power so they can corrupt further. I mean, everything is backwards on this planet. Are we on a, I mean, this is the backward planet.
Excuse me, Robert. I couldn't help but chuckle. You're a dreamer, and you have a great heart. And you look around and you think, well, why in the hell is it so difficult? You know,
Bob, can you hold on just for 1 second? We're coming up on a quick break, and we'll pick it up right after there.
All right, Robert, I'm here.
Okay.
Regardless of the dollar price involved, 1 ounce of gold would purchase a good quality man's suit at the conclusion of the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the presidency of Franklin Roosevelt, and today. You may not be in the market for a new suit, but you don't know what the future may bring. And gold is the one financial constant the world has ever known. It can always provide you with your basic needs. Whether you're looking for junk silver, old silver dollar rolls, gold bullion, or fractional tradable gold pieces, Kettle Moraine is your full-service representative with over 50 years of knowledge and personal experience. Visit FlyingEagleGold.com or call us at 623-327-1778 today for competitive prices on all your gold or silver needs. If you're looking for real financial insurance, call Kettle Moraine today at 623-327-1778. That's Kettle Moraine, 623-327-1778.
It's hard to imagine when things are going reasonably well just how quickly things can change. But what would it take? Economic collapse? Massive crop failure? Chemical or biological attack? So many situations could find you in the grocery looking to pick up food for your family only to find that the shelves are empty. There's nothing. Don't let that happen. Act today to make sure that if it ever comes to that, you and your family will be provided for. Visit freezedryguy.com to look at the wide variety of survival foods available. Freeze-dried foods from the Freeze Dry Guy store longer, rehydrate faster, are nutritionally superior to, and taste better than any other long-term storage food available. Visit freezedryguy.com or call toll-free 866-404-3663. freezedryguy.com.
Energy. This world has so much energy, yet our bodies are lacking. What if you could tap into something that gave you more energy? What if you could drink a beverage and receive more energy? Well, Life Change Tea is your answer. Our number one compliment is people receiving more energy. And our product is all natural and no caffeine. And think about this. If you have more energy, you get more done. What a concept. If you are desiring more energy and a healthier lifestyle, it's time to drink Life Change Tea. Our name hints to our success. So here's how to order. Call us, 928-308-0408. Again, that's 928-308-0408. Or you can log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And remember, there's only $3 shipping on your complete order. Again, more energy, more success. That's getthetea.com.
You're listening to The Micro Effect.
Welcome back, everyone, to The Whole Agenda. I am your host, Robert Pepino, and we've been talking with the incredible Bob Dean, who I'm so proud to call my friend, even my mentor. He has taught me so much. He's taught me to calm down, slow down, listen to your surroundings, because you will miss many things if you don't take the time to look around you. And real quick, I want to give everybody the call-in number. I encourage you to call Mr. Dean, because his time is very precious. He has a very, very busy schedule. So I encourage you to call in and ask questions. The call-in number is 1-888-747-1968. Bob, back to you. I didn't mean to cut you off, Greg. Once in a while we have those on this station to pay for this broadcast.
No problem.
But I wanted you to pick up where you left off just before we got cut off by the break.
Well, frankly, I don't remember where the hell I was, Robert.
Well,
I think I was chiding
chiding
you about having a little more patience. You know, don't let this get to you personally. Don't let it disturb you too much. I've been around quite a few years, and I used to be impatient as hell. And to some degree, I guess I still am. But I've learned over the years that all in good time, Bob. It's inevitable, frankly. The schedule is in the hands of our extended family. They're frankly on schedule. It's their schedule, and as Robert Bigelow said one time years and years ago, everybody's got a damned agenda, but he said there's only one agenda, pointed to the heavens. Says it's their agenda. Says it always has been. It is. So closure and all of that, everything that we're expecting and waiting for is going to be in time. It's part of their schedule. I suspect that according to their schedule, they're right on time. We humans are the ones that are impatient. We humans are the ones that cannot see the bigger picture. And so I advise you, so don't let it get to you personally. Stay cool, my friend. It's going to come out and be okay.
I try to do that. Sometimes I feel like a little kid who's at the baseball field, and it's really getting late, and I hear my mother calling me, but I don't want to leave the field. It's that kind of feeling.
Well, that's an interesting analogy. For a long, long time, I personally have felt like the little kid that was watching the parade, you know, and started yelling that the king had no clothes. And I've been jumping up and down yelling that the king has no clothes for years and years and years, and nobody wants to pay any attention. But I begin to see that people are beginning to wake up. It's encouraging when I go to run into it that are awake, aware. 20 years ago, it wasn't that way, you know. 20 years ago, you talk to people, maybe 1 out of 10 might know what the hell you're talking. But
right.
Now you go to a conference, talk to 600 or 800 people, and you're encouraged to know that, you know, well over half of them are aware.
Bob,
know what you're talking about.
Do you feel like taking a couple phone calls?
Yeah, I would be honored.
Well, caller, what is your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Renee. I'm calling from Phoenix. I am very much interested in tonight's programs. I like very much what Bob has to say. I would like to ask him a couple questions.
Please go right ahead.
Thank you. Bob, have you personally had physical contact with any alien beings?
Well, that's a pretty blunt question, young lady, and I'll be blunt and say yes, I have. I kept my mouth shut for many, many years. I've had face-to-face meetings with some of them since I was a child. But I kept my mouth shut for so many years because I brought something like that out, told people that non-humans, you had a relationship with non-human intelligence, they would haul your little buns off the nut house. So, you know, all the years in the military, all the years I worked with FEMA, I kept my mouth shut. But in the last 2 years, I decided to hell with it. I'm going to tell the truth and admit, and I gave Carrie Cassidy on Operation Camelot a whole story on it a couple of years ago, which I understand she put on the tube. The story is all out there.
I commend you for that. Now, are they here among us? Are they working with us? Do we see them? Do they look like us? Or they're, I mean, I have no notion of what they would look like because I hear so many stories. They're grays, they're tall, they're short, so on and so forth.
Well, young lady, I will tell you honestly and bluntly that they're not all. Some of them don't look like us. Some of them look so damn different that if they were to walk up and down the street, they'd cause a riot. But there are a few of the groups out there that look enough like us that they can sit next to you in a restaurant or in an airplane or in a theater, and you'd never know the difference. They're as human as we are, but actually they're more than human. My experience with them, what we call ourselves, Homo sapiens sapiens. Well, some of these that I have met are pretty much like Homo sapiens sapiens sapiens, and another sapien or two there, because they are so far advanced from us that they may look like us. To some degree, they may think like us, but they've gone beyond the old human Homo sapiens sapiens. They're literally non-human in the way
they're not human the way they think, but their intelligence is way above our intelligence, I imagine. And while you had this contact with them, did you ever have a chance to ask them, do they have any message for us, the human beings here? Are they here to protect us, or do they have another agenda?
Well, they have an agenda, and the latest that I have gotten from them, and I whenever I'm with one or two of them, I'm nothing but questions. I just drive me halfway crazy with questions. I just won't shut up. But the story that I've got, the picture that they have painted for me, as it were, is that we really are, we have nothing to be afraid of. But it is going to work out, and it's a bumpy road that we're on to adulthood. We're going to make this transition from adolescence into adulthood. And as I jokingly say, it isn't really funny, but we do have good friends in high places.
Bob, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm so sorry. Do you mind if we have another caller come on the line because he wants to ask you some questions?
Not at all. Go ahead.
Hi, Bob. Are we going to meet those who put their mark on us?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Are we going to meet those who put their mark on us?
Well, they've put their mark on us a long, long time ago. They manipulated our genome to a point that we old Cro-Magnon was the first.
Are we going to meet them?
Well, okay. You need to be more specific for Bob.
We're meeting them now. Many of us are meeting them on an almost continual basis.
Oh, okay.
Including some of our top military, including some of our top politicians. We've even got extraterrestrial intelligences working alongside of us inside of government laboratories.
Yeah,
now that's how much this intimacy has developed over the years.
What do you know about Ellen's progress so far?
Well, the last I've heard, it's nothing but a comet. Nothing big deal. No. It's not a spaceship. It's a comet, and the latest I've heard, it's coming apart.
I see. Well, thanks a lot.
You're welcome, Mike.
Okay.
Take care.
All right, Bob. I have so many questions to ask, but I'm not going to be taking up a lot of your time because I know you have a lot of important things to say. Perhaps when you're on another time, I will continue with my questions. And I do thank you very much. Stick around. You're going to be with us many, many years. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for the thought, honey, but I don't want to be around that much longer.
You know what? I believe that everything is destined. We have written our own script. When the time comes, no matter where we are, we go. So,
well, I have reached that point in my life. I've reached the point that we pretty well, when we come in, when we incarnate on this, that we lay out the program pretty clearly for what we want to accomplish and what we want to. And I agree with you that the schedule of coming in, the arrival, as well as the departure time is already cut dried. It's already laid out. So my departure time is already, I already have my ticket. I just haven't had it punched yet.
It means you're not ripe enough to go. That means that the world still needs you for the reason of the work that you're doing right now, because you are bringing a message to the people. You are enlightening the people. So therefore, it's not your time yet. So just hang it here and enjoy the ride.
Well,
Renee,
thank you
for calling in.
Comment.
Bye-bye, Bob. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Well, Bob, seems like everybody loves you. I know I do. But I wanted to ask you something, and for some reason, my question didn't come through, but who was the very first, or what species was the very first that you encountered?
Well, I guess the first that I encountered that I can remember vividly were tall grays. Now, these guys are about the same height as we are. They're 6 feet, 5. Some of them are 6 feet. But they're tall and thin, and they are a gray. They're a species from a planet in another star. And that was probably my first, face-to-face that I remember vividly.
How old were you?
Oh, Lord. I think those were the ones that saved my life when I was about 2.5. If you go on to Operation Camelot, Robert, and the story I told Carrie, I've laid it out there in some detail about my life was saved when I was a little. I fell into an industrial canal when I was about 2.5 years old, and I was drowning. I was lifted up out of the water and placed 40 feet up on the bank, and I couldn't see anybody who was behind me that had done that. I appeared to be alone, but it became clear to me later on that some of the tall grays were involved in that. But over the years, Robert, I've met and encountered any number of different kinds of species. Most of them, I will tell you, are humanoid. I mean, they have 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, they stand upright, walk. And they're humanoid, but not all of them are human enough. They could move around in our midst without causing a riot. But some of them, the ones that I think are hybrids, are look enough like us that they can sit next to you in a theater or in a restaurant, and you wouldn't know the difference. The ones that I have met recently, the ones that have been called educating me and taking me places, they look just like, guys from down the street, so to speak. But you look into their eyes, Robert, and you notice that they're not the same. The moment you look into their eyes, you know that you're not looking into the eyes. You're looking into the eyes of a human that's beyond human. I asked one of them one time, how many years are you guys beyond us? He told me that, he says, my concept of time was totally so fundamental and so ridiculous. It's hard to explain. He said, our concept of time here on this planet is just so pathetic. And he said, what do you think? You think 1,000 years? 10,000 years? And I said, well, how about 1,000,000 years? It's a lot farther than that.
Yeah.
So some of these guys, Bob, are so far beyond us in terms of time.
Well, I understand what you said, because I know that this race here, us, with our DNA structure, we tend to look at things in a linear sense, but I could definitely see, beings that are, mentally so superior to us that linear timeline does not exist. I'm sure they look, I don't know, I'm just taking a wild shot here, but it's a spherical overview of how the universe functions, and they probably realize that, and that's why there is no real time per se. We just have a timeline that we have put to use here for us, to gauge our time on this planet and how we progress.
Well, that was the point he made. One of the guys I was talking to, he said, your concept of time is so primitive that you don't even be grasped. He says, time as you understand it or you think about it doesn't exist. He says, space-time, you can't separate space and you can't separate time. It's all the same. Space-time. He says, out there, infinity of space. There is no time as we understand. Everything is now. And I'm still having a problem with that because, I went to school and I was taught all the BS and all the crap all of our kids fed the time they start going to school. I'm still trying to come to terms with some of this because, my old brain still has a problem of grasping this. But I think I'm making a little bit of progress. I've recognized that the past and the present and the future is all. I'm working on it. I haven't gotten there yet, but at least I haven't gone over the edge. I haven't lost my mind completely.
You're right, because everyone else has lost their mind. I'm right in that same game with you, Bob. I couldn't you couldn't say it any better.
I found in my conversations with them, Robert, that they were very patient, and they were almost kind of, well, how do I say it? They were more than patient. They seemed to have a certain warmth about that they understood the struggle I was making to try to even come to terms with some of them. Because I asked questions about distances and places and locations and all that. And they tried gently and affectionately to try to tell me not to let it bother me because I have to get rid of all those concepts. It's like I asked them how they traveled from here to there. And they said that they don't travel like we understand traveling. It's not going from here to there. That they simply dial where they want to be, and they push a button or two and pull a lever or something, and on the ships, and that's where they end up being. So they don't, this old idea of faster than light and going from one star to another and all that. Well, apparently that's a very primitive human understanding, but they don't trouble themselves with that sort of. When they go
Bob,
from one place to another, it's a matter of literally moments or minutes.
But what do you think their ultimate message for us is? Because is the way I see it, we are, like you said, their fauna and flora. We are their children. What is their ultimate message for us, do you think, from your view?
Well, it's rather simple. They're striving to help us survive. We're going through a transition, Robert. I I call it a transcendent transformation, literally into a new race, to a new. And they are literally striving to assist us make that transformation. Apparently, many of them have been where we are today. They have been themselves at their place. My God, 10 million years ago, they may have been where we are. So they can sympathize with us, so they empathize with us, and they see us as a species that's struggling to make this transition. And they're trying to help us make it without blowing ourselves up, without all of us going totally psychotic. So it's a gentle, loving, caring kind of process. And you will forgive me, but I must go back to a good friend of mine that I knew and was a friend of mine 2,000 years ago in Galilee. And he laid it out about as clear as it could be. He tried to tell us who we were and how we came to be, why we were here, and the messages he left, the truths that he told are as valid and real today as they were in Galilee 2,000 years ago.
He was one of them, wasn't he, Bob?
Sorry?
He was one of them.
Of course he was, and he said that repeatedly. He said, this is not my kingdom. No, this is not my kingdom. I have incarnated, I have come into this world to bring you some fruit. He did it. He was here for over 40 years. And he laid it out pretty bluntly. Those truths have not changed one bit. So he looked up and pointed at the stars and he says, in my Father's house, this is not my kingdom, but I've come to give you the truth. He gave it to us. Didn't have the brains to grasp what he was.
I can grasp it because I understand clearly what you're saying. And a lot of people want to bury their heads in the sand when you say something as clear and precise of a statement as you had, because they will litter it with religious nonsense. That's
that's one of the sad things about religion, I'm not a religious person, Robert. I consider myself deep spiritual. But I'm not affiliated with any of the organized religions. I studied them all, and I realized at the very beginning there were kernels of truth in every major religion on the planet. But human beings, being the little nitwits and nincompoops that they are, insisted on rewriting and eliminating and editing and all that and adding all crap to it. And they turned it into a political structure. That's not what the original teachings were. Hopefully, slowly, we're getting back to the spiritual meaning of what it's all about. The human beings are infinite and immortal beings. They incarnate on this planet for a short period of time. Apparently, everybody coming to terms with this. This planet is one hell of a good schoolroom. Apparently,
it's a rough schoolroom, but it is good.
It's one of the most difficult schools in the galaxy. Bob Monroe, a guy I admired deeply, died. Robert Monroe, who established the Monroe Institute, said that this is a predator planet, and he said it's designed that. It's designed to be difficult. There's a story going around all over the galaxy that if you can go through 2 or 3 lifetimes on planet Earth, they give you a certificate. Because, you put up with one of the most difficult schools in the galaxy. And if you go through 2 or 3 lifetimes here, they give you, a little piece of paper or something, a little certificate that you graduated from one of the most difficult schools in the galaxy. Well, let me tell you, it is a difficult school. It's painful, it's heartbreaking, it's a bloody life up here on this planet. And I've been here a number of times, but when I go home this time, I'm not sure I want to come back here.
Well, Bob, we're going to go into a break here. We got our news correspondent coming up doing a quick news break, updates for about 15 minutes. So you can definitely take a break, and we can pick it up right after 15 after the top of the hour.
Okay, Robert.
All right. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino, and I have my very special guest, Bob Dean, and we'll be back 15 after the top of the hour. Stick with us.
Regardless of the dollar price involved, 1 ounce of gold would purchase a good quality man's suit at the conclusion of the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the presidency of Franklin Roosevelt, and today. You may not be in the market for a new suit, but you don't know what the future may bring. And gold is the one financial constant the world has ever known. It can always provide you with your basic needs. Whether you're looking for junk silver, old silver dollar rolls, gold bullion, or fractional tradable gold pieces, Kettle Moraine is your full-service representative with over 50 years of knowledge and personal experience. Visit FlyingEagleGold.com or call us at 623-327-1778 today for competitive prices on all your gold or silver needs. If you're looking for real financial insurance, call Kettle Moraine today at 623-327-1778. That's Kettle Moraine, 623-327-1778.
It's hard to imagine when things are going reasonably well just how quickly things can change. But what would it take? Economic collapse, massive crop failure, chemical or biological attack? So many situations could find you in the grocery looking to pick up food for your family only to find that the shelves are empty. There's nothing. Don't let that happen. Act today to make sure that if it ever comes to that, you and your family will be provided for. Visit freezedryguy.com to look at the wide variety of survival foods available. Freeze-dried foods from the Freeze Dry Guy store longer, rehydrate faster, are nutritionally superior to, and taste better than any other long-term storage food available. Visit freezedryguy.com or call toll-free 866-404-3663. freezedryguy.com.
Energy. This world has so much energy, yet our bodies are lacking. What if you could tap into something that gave you more energy? What if you could drink a beverage and receive more energy? Well, Life Change Tea is your answer. Our number one compliment is people receiving more energy. And our product is all natural and no caffeine. And think about this. If you have more energy, you get more done. What a concept. If you are desiring more energy and a healthier lifestyle, it's time to drink Life Change Tea. Our name hints to our success. So here's how to order. Call us, 928-308-0408. Again, that's 928-308-0408. Or you can log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And remember, there's only $3 shipping on your complete order. Again, more energy, more success. That's getthetea.com.
You're listening to The Micro Effect.
Good evening. This is Paul Landris with the Whole Agenda Radio Show, broadcasting to you live on the Micro Effect Network. Let me give you a quick stock update. The Dow closed today at 11,414.86. Was up 275.56 cents. NASDAQ closed at 2548.94, up 75.11. S&P 500 closed at 1198.62, up 33.38 cents. Oil 89.87, up 53 cents. Gold closed at 1817.30 cents, down $56.30. Silver closed at $41.55, down 41 cents. And the gold and silver ratio was 43.93 today. I wanted to touch on something that I'm sure all of you have heard from other people before and everything, but just after what's happened within the last week, I just wanted to reiterate that. I'm in my 50s, and I know when growing up, yes, there was violence. Yes, there was shootings. Yes, there was war. But nothing as to the extent as what has been going on now in New York City. Man killed 5 people near Morgantown, then ran down an elderly woman in neighboring Pennsylvania, then shot and wounded a gas station attendant. Then he took his own life. Mother and her 2 teen children shot dead by boyfriend. IHOP, Carson City, Nevada, man kills 5 people, wounds 7. Dade County, 2 killed, 4 injured. In Phoenix, 2 men in their 20s and a 14-year-old boy were shot while walking to a birthday party. Teenager shot and killed while helping his mother renovate a restaurant in Miami. I don't know. I just haven't seen the extent of that, especially in the last week. But what really unnerved me was a comment that someone did make to me. They told me these people were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Well, you know what? To that person, others who think that way, how could the National Guard be protecting us after training be in a wrong place in an IHOP? How could an elderly couple having breakfast after church being in the wrong place at the wrong time? A family, their kids, at the wrong time. No, absolutely not. If you break down the phrase, wrong place, wrong time, person that was in the wrong was the person doing the shooting, not the people there. Last night I started an article, and I got halfway through it. It sounded like it was, I had ended it, but I didn't. I had really, so I'm going to go ahead and do the whole article tonight. It kind of goes hand in hand with what is going on. It's just, I mean, how can things like this be? You know, what is going on here? It is darkly comic. Appeals court dismisses case. Not sending your son a birthday gift and refusing to buy your daughter a homecoming dress may not be ideal parenting, but it's not enough to sue over. In a unanimous ruling, the First District Appellate Court of Illinois has upheld the dismissal of what it calls a bad mothering lawsuit. The lawsuit sought more than $50,000 unspecified punitive damages from Kimberly A. Garrity, who is accused of a course of conduct which has caused both the intentional and negligent infliction of emotional distress to her children, Stephen Minor, 23, and Catherine, 20. Conduct began after their parents divorced when the children were 7 and 4. Among the claims are that there were no gifts and cards sent to them when they were children. They were played favorites with when they were children. Told her son, who at the time was 7, that during a car ride that she would take him to the police station if he didn't buckle his seatbelt. She did not send him care packages until a 6th semester away at college, and then only at her ex-husband's prompting. When she remarried, changing her surname, this caused emotional distress for her daughter at her daughter's school events. And she also refused to buy her daughter Catherine a homecoming dress. On that same homecoming, the lawsuit states, mother did provide an automobile, but contacted her daughter at midnight and told her she had to bring it back right away. The appellate court stated that while Garrity's actions may have been unpleasant and perhaps insensitive, they did not meet the legal standards of intentional infliction of emotional distress. At its worst, the judge said it reflects behavior that is sometimes erratic, sometimes spiteful, sometimes less than generous, or fully insensitive to the material and emotional needs of her children. But by no means does the nature and quality of this conduct fall outside all possible bounds of decency. All parties involved declined to comment on that. Okay, word of the day. Carbon soldiers. Slang term for children, kids, offspring, and rugrats. When used, I don't have any little carbon soldiers yet, but maybe in the not-so-future. Or, yes, he is my little carbon soldier. British tourist complains that fishing attraction smells of fish. A tourist filed an official complaint last week alleging that his walk through the fishing harbor, Benfrcombe in Devon, England, was ruined by the smell of fish. David Cobb, a British tourist who apparently headed to Ilfracombe to take in the sea air, claimed that the foul stench upset his children. The Mirror reports that the Ilfracombe authorities were not that concerned about the report. My response to him was, I'm sorry, you shouldn't be taking your children to a harbor if that is how they will react to dead fish. You'd think it would be smelling of roses, the harbor master said. According to the Telegraph, Cobb called the North Devon Journal after Lawson's answer failed to satisfy him. The Journal printed his complaints along with the allegation that the smell was issuing from a boat named the Lady of Lundy. Fishermen told the British press, who jumped all over the story, that the working waterfront was the attraction, that getting rid of all the dead fish might defeat the point. Okay, thought for the day. Have you ever thought that when vultures fly, are they allowed carry-on luggage? Okay, think about that. Okay, abandoned for 2 weeks, starving dogs eat owner. 7 dogs starved of food and water for 2 weeks are suspected of eating their Indonesian owner after he returned home from a holiday. A neighbor was curious when he saw luggage lined up at the front of Andre Lumbago's house days after he arrived back home. The neighbor approached the house, smelled something foul, and called the police. Body parts were found throughout the house. Lumbago arrived home last Wednesday, but his body was just discovered on Monday. We suspect that the dogs were hungry, so they attacked Andre because they had not been fed for 14 days. Police also found bones of 2 other dogs believed to have been eaten by the hungry canines. Lumbago was from northern Sulawesi Island, a predominantly Christian area where the local spicy diet is famous in Indonesia for including dogs, bats, forest rats, and now perhaps humans. Aliens versus humans. Eco-friendly ETs could wipe out the planet Earth. Anyone hoping that their first spaceman to land on Earth would be as friendly as ET could be in for a shock. In the latest bid to get us to cut greenhouse gases, scientists have decided that eco-conscious aliens, disgusted by mankind's emissions, could destroy our planet in disgust. Observed from afar, the changes in Earth's atmosphere could label us as a civilization that has grown out of control. Aliens reaching that conclusions may then launch a preemptive strike to protect this perceived threat to their own way of life. But this is only one possibility. Scientists are also considering other unwelcome and far-fetched outcomes, perhaps such as aggressive extraterrestrials who eat or enslave us, or perhaps they are the industrial types, want to improve their own technological infrastructure and so pillage ours. The report, it is a joint effort between NASA and Pennsylvania State University, answered the question, would contact with extraterrestrials benefit or harm humanity? Providing beneficial, neutral, and harmful outcomes, the report is designed to prepare mankind possibility of an alien encounter on Earth. In fact, they actually did give some hypothetical scenarios. The beneficial ones, just mere detection. This would have philosophical implications. They were neutral, invisible to us, potentially hiding. Harmful, the selfish ETs that would eat, enslave, or attack us. And unintentional harm, a physical hazard caused by a disease, invasive species, computer virus, or biological hazards. An off-duty state trooper reported seeing a high-speed chase involving a white van and a blue van. The white van hit a blue van multiple times during the chase, which reached speeds of more than 100 miles an hour. Turns out they were all siblings. In the blue van was Lawrence White, 82, and sister Dorothy, 83. And the white van was brother Clyde, 78. White hit his siblings' van numerous times, forced their van off the road. It then hit a DirecTV van that was parked. Clyde White fled the scene, but his van then collided with a tractor-trailer van. White is charged with 2 counts of attempted murder and 2 counts of wanton endangerment, being held on $500,000 bond. State police are still investigating. Okay, a new book explores how willpower works. Willpower, Rediscovering the Greatest Human Strength. It's by Roy Baumeister and John Tierney. Self-control, as it turns out, is like a muscle. It can be exhausted from overuse, but it can also be strengthened through exercise. The latter quality is good news since most problems such as drug abuse, violence, overspending, underachievement, unhealthy habits can be traced back to a lack of self-control. In one experiment, college students who had been fasting were put in a room suffused with the smell of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. Some were allowed to eat cookies. Others were offered chocolate. And a third group could only snack on radishes. Researchers left the room to increase the temptation of the radish group. Afterwards, the students were given unsolvable puzzles to work on. The first two groups of students attempted them for about 20 minutes, as did a control group of students who hadn't been offered any food. The radish group, however, gave up after 8 minutes. Their effort resisting the sweets earlier had left them with far less energy to tackle puzzles. Researchers found a similar depletion effect among people called in to make decisions all day. Members of an Israeli prison parole board, prisoners whose cases were heard early in the morning were granted parole about 70% of the time, compared with less than 10% those who appeared late in the day, even for people serving sentences for identical crimes. Interestingly, the board's members' mid-morning snack also made a significant difference. Prisoners appearing right before the break had about a 15% chance of being granted parole, versus a 70% chance for those who came right after the break. When it comes to child-rearing approaches, the authors tout the benefits of promoting self-control instead of the more vogue trend of promoting self-esteem. Well, stay tuned now. We're going to have an amazing second half of the show with Bob Dean and Robert. This is Paul Landers, correspondent for the Whole Agenda Radio Show, broadcasting to you live on the Micro Effect Network. Thank you and good night.
I am your host, Robert Pino, and I want to give out the call-in number before we get started. The number is 1-888-747-1968. I encourage everyone who's listening to this broadcast to please call in and ask your questions to Mr. Dean. His time is very precious, and I thank him for giving his time on this broadcast. Bob, are you still with us?
I'm with you, Robert.
I wanted to ask you something that you were talking about Galilee, and you touched on something that was I've been thinking about a long time. And I know you said you were very close to him. I know you even mentioned before that you were best friends. I can't even imagine that experience, let alone reliving it. I don't even know how to put this. To feel the warmth and love of an individual, and it doesn't. I'm not talking about the love between a man and woman or man and man. I'm talking about the pure love of the energy of the universe. The experience itself must be so overwhelming that it must be almost ethereal in a certain sense, because you can't wrap your head around it. And I know you said you've gone over it, mind, the overwhelming effect that it has had on you. How do you deal with that? I mean, how do you deal with that kind of that kind of emotion?
Well, Robert, I'll tell you honestly, you don't deal with. You probably know the story. I've shared it with a number of years ago. I agreed to hypnotic a hypnotist, a PhD at the University of Arizona, a woman who had a doctorate in philosophy. She taught it first. But she was a hypnotist. She had a bit of a reputation as being reputable and dependable and trustworthy. So a friend of mine recommended I see her and talk to her about undergoing a series of hypnotic past life regression. Because all of my life, Bob, I've had the thing about being places and feeling comfortable and feeling familiar. I've traveled the world. I've been places I'd never been before that seemed familiar. You know, I had certain interests in history. I majored in ancient history when I was in college. And I had this nagging feeling like I had been there and been here and seen this. So that's why I decided to go through this process. Robert, I had no idea what was going to happen. Not prepared for what took place. I went through a series of hypnotic past life regression. It changed my life because, as I said, I was totally unprepared for what I encountered. During the sessions, I learned that I had apparently lived 4 or 5 different lives over the different parts of the world, which explained and answered some of my questions about why certain areas were familiar to me and all. But I was totally unprepared for the last session, where I discovered that I apparently had lived a life in Galilee 2,000 years ago. And the emotional impact of that experience, I must tell you, I don't know whether you've ever had done this or not in this before in your life. When you're under a deep hypnotic trance and you're remembering, you don't simply remember, Rob, literally relive the emotion. And the emotions came pouring up out of my depth of my subconscious. Literally were overwhelming. I found that I had a life in Galilee 2,000 years ago, and a Jewish rabbi by the name of Yeshua ben Yosef was a friend of mine. He was my best friend. I tell people who are interested that he still today is my best friend. But the emotional impact of what I experienced, something that I had totally unprepared.
I can understand that.
The emotion comes pouring up out of the depth of your unconscious, your subconscious, and it literally can be overwhelming. You don't remember it, simply relive it. Right. And it's all in there. It's all in there. Every one of us on this planet, there's not a human being walking around out here that hasn't lived previous lives.
You're right. Absolutely right. Bob, you feel like taking another call?
Yeah, I'm ready for another call.
Okay, caller, you're on the line. Where are you calling from and what's your name?
This is Annie, and I'm outside Nashville.
Welcome to the show, Annie.
Oh, thank you, Bob. And Bob, I wanted to say that you are just awesome tonight as usual, but my questions takes us away from your spirituality back to the physicality part of the discussion tonight. Because I feel like that anybody or something or somebody that abducts me is not my friend. And so do you think, have you ever met any bad ETs? What do you think about, all the stories that we hear about sucky-faced reptoids and, what's the counterbalance to this? Are there bad ETs, or is it just like the scorpion that stings the fox that took it across the river saying it's just in my nature? As above, so below. I don't know. I'm confused about all this. It's the duality, I guess.
Well, you're a very bright young lady, and you asked an all good question. I don't make judgments on good or bad. I stopped doing that a long, long time ago. I know that there are intelligences out there that don't particularly like human beings. I'm not saying to you that they're malevolent intentionally, but they're certainly not benevolent either. They don't like human beings, and they try to avoid us whenever they can. They look upon us, some of these groups out there, as primitive, savage, and dangerous animals. Well, I agree with that. I think we are primitive, savage, and dangerous animals. But the planet is under a form of quarantine. And as I jokingly say, and it's not a joke, we do indeed have good friends in high places. There are several advanced intelligences out there that are striving hard, very hard, to help us make this transition adolescence to adulthood. And they are more or less benevolent, and they're trying hard to assist us, like a parent might assist a troublesome adolescent child. But there are indeed intelligences out there, and I've encountered one or two of them over the years. And as I said, they're not intentionally malevolent, but they don't like human beings at all. And they frankly would prefer to avoid us if they can. They find being around us very, very distasteful, as it were.
I find to be the same way myself sometimes.
Well, I do too, honey, and I know exactly where you're coming from. I have my grandmother, when I was a little tyke years and years and years ago, used to say to me, if we could only see ourselves as others see.
Yeah.
And over the years, I've developed the ability to try to see ourselves as the others see us. And I look at the human species and I think, good God, what a bunch of nincompoop nitwits we are.
Yeah.
Any society, any civilization that considers itself halfway mature still goes to war like we do. And still is so damn greedy, and, the economic warfare that's going on this planet. Just, we're not an advanced species, honey. We're not an advanced race yet. There's hope for us, and I've been told that they feel very helpful, and they feel very hopeful about us, that maybe there is hope for us as a race, as a species. But we got a long way to go, I'm afraid.
Well,
but I've been fortunate. I've never met any of the malevolent, dangerous ones, although I know there are ones out there like that. But we are under kind of a protective quarantine right at the moment.
Well, if the war for dominion over the earth has been going on, hasn't it been going on for thousands of years? Looks like somebody would have won by now.
Well, our concept of time is totally different from what they have. They don't measure time at all like we do. You've heard it in the Bible. I think it's said somewhere in the Old Testament or where, that one day in the life of the Lord is like 1,000 years. One day to God is like 1,000 human years. Well, that's partially true, because out there they don't measure time at all like we do down here. So it's a little difficult for us to look back over the time. We look back in 2,000 years and 5,000 years, and we realize if we come to terms with it, that's only 2 days, maybe 5 days, just a few moments, really.
Yeah.
Hey, Annie, do you want to stick with us through the break? Because I feel like you have a few more questions you want to ask Bob. We're going to be coming up on a break in just a minute, but I wanted to put something out there to you, Bob, and I was just thinking about it when you were just replying to Annie's question, that we know that they don't see time the way we do, and definitely time is only linear to us because of how we've developed through this delusional process of time on this planet. But if they view us as their fauna and flora, and they are here to take care of us, isn't there a linear time sense to them in regards to us?
Well, you've asked a good question, Robert, and I'm not able to give you a good answer. I know this, that some of them that I have met, I've gotten the impression, and they've kind of indicated it to me. Several of them are, in terms of our concept of time, are several thousands of our years old. If you look at one of their adults, might be looking at somebody who been around 5,000 of our years. Because apparently they don't age out there like we do down here. We're immersed here in this world that we're in. We incarnate into this material world. And we age and we grow old. I'm a walking example of an old fart who is not happy about the process at all. I find my knees going on me, my ears are shot, now I'm beginning to lose my sight, and I'm not very helpful with, I'm not happy with that process.
Okay, Bob, we're coming up on the break right now. Everyone, please stick with us. This is the Whole Agenda radio show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino, and Bob is 82 years young. He says he's falling apart, but I say he's just getting better by the day. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Regardless of the dollar price involved, 1 ounce of gold would purchase a good quality man's suit at the conclusion of the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the presidency of Franklin Roosevelt, and today. You may not be in the market for a new suit, but you don't know what the future may bring. And gold is the one financial constant the world has ever known. It can always provide you with your basic needs. Whether you're looking for junk silver, old silver dollar rolls, gold bullion, or fractional tradable gold pieces, Kettle Moraine is your full-service representative with over 50 years of knowledge and personal experience. Visit FlyingEagleGold.com or call us at 623-327-1778 today for competitive prices on all your gold or silver needs. If you're looking for real financial insurance, call Kettle Moraine today at 623-327-1778. That's Kettle Moraine, 623-327-1778.
It's hard to imagine when things are going reasonably well just how quickly things can change. But what would it take? Economic collapse? Massive crop failure? Chemical or biological attack? So many situations could find you in the grocery looking to pick up food for your family only to find that the shelves are empty. There's nothing. Don't let that happen. Act today to make sure that if it ever comes to that, you and your family will be provided for. Visit freezedryguy.com to look at the wide variety of survival foods available. Freeze-dried foods from the Freeze Dry Guy store longer, rehydrate faster, are nutritionally superior to, and taste better than any other long-term storage food available. Visit freezedryguy.com or call toll-free 866-404-3663. FreezeDryGuy.com.
You're listening to The Micro Effect.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to The Whole Agenda. I'm your host, Robert Pino, and I have my wonderful guest. I'm very proud to always call him my friend, Bob Dean, and we have Annie on the line, and I believe Annie had a question for Bob before I cut her off.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I've already kind of answered my own question that I asked you, Bob, in that, but here I go with the bad E.T., good E.T. judgment that you don't like to go to. They haven't eaten us yet, but I do feel like the good E.T.s are pushing this, are letting us push this earth to its limit. Or maybe we'll just become another past civilization and the world will regreen itself and go on to another civilization and look back at us and laugh.
Well, your point's well taken. You've done a lot of thinking about it.
I have since the 60s.
I got the impression in some of my conversations that this whole process is pretty well on schedule, that we are indeed making progress. We are indeed touring some. We are indeed apparently learning and growing up a little bit. There's a joke we say, and it's not really a pun, we do indeed have good friends in high places. They're nurturing, they're encouraging, particularly because we're related to a couple. They literally engineered our genome a couple hundred thousand years ago.
Well, I want to interject something here real quick also, Bob, to the fact that, that you've been speaking out for years, and you've said this repeatedly, not just with me personally, but on many shows, that, these back shadow government critters could have taken you out any time, but you were protected even back then.
Robert, my friends out there, as it were, no pun intended, but apparently they've kept me alive over the years. They saved my life in Korea 3 times. They saved my life in Vietnam at least 4 different. Time and time again over the years, I've avoided dangerous situations. As I said, when I was 2.5, they saved my life when I fell into that industrial canal in Covington, Kentucky, when I was just a little guy. And over the years, it became very clear to me that something was going on here. And then in the last, 5 or 10 years, become very clear because they've made it that they saved me because they wanted me to do something and accomplish. And over the years, I had no idea what the hell they even thought. But apparently, what I've been doing the last 20 years is apparently why I've been hanging around. That I'm blunt, I'm outspoken, I'm telling people what I've seen, what I've learned, where I've been, what's happened to me. And as I say, I've traveled the world for 20 years now. I've spoken all over the United States. In about 18 to 20 foreign countries. I've been at this for over 20 years, for God's sake. And as I jokingly told you the other day at dinner, I'm ready to go home. I want out of here, damn it. Because I can remember what it's like on the other side. I remember what it was like before I came.
I wish
so
I
I'm
had
not
the same
afraid of dying,
experience as
Robert.
you.
Matter of fact, I'm kind of looking forward to it. But I've been given the blunt story. I mean, they've made no question of it. I'm not finished yet. I've got to do what I came to do, and that apparently is to talk to people every chance I get, every radio interview, on every conference that I attend as a speaker, that I'm supposed to say and share and tell people what I've been shown, what I've experienced, what's happened in my own life. Apparently, that's why I'm still here, Bob. So apparently I ain't going to get a chance to go home until I finish up what the hell I came to do.
Right, and I just wanted to say that there is no such thing as coincidences. They do not exist.
I agree with you. I used to believe in coincidence, but not anymore. I think it's all laid out pretty clearly, Bob. I think when we incarnate here, we ourselves have had we're part of the major players. We plan our incarnation. We plan our life. We select the parents we want to be a part of. We pretty well lay out the program for ourselves. Now, I do believe in free will. We do have some choices along the way, but the play itself has been written, as I jokingly say, like Shakespeare. We enter stage right. We prance around, we bang around with our little toy swords, and we kiss and love and make babies and all that. And We go through a life and then we exit stage left. But the play goes on. My part of it, my little prancing on the stage has not finished yet, apparently.
Burning lots of karma, huh, Bob?
Well, karma, that's another issue that I find exciting. I have learned over the years, honey, that karma is in a cosmic law. My good friend from Galilee laid it out pretty clearly. He says you reap what you sow, literally. And one of the terms he used was down to the last jot tittle. It took me years to figure out what the hell a jot and a tittle was. And I found out that a jot, I think, was a little accent mark find above certain Hebrew letters. And a tittle is apparently a little tiny coin, which is about 1/10 of a shekel or something like that. But Yeshua made it clear that karma is a cosmic rule. It's a cosmic law. And we live it, literally live it, down to the last point. So that's something that the human beings could come to terms with, that they're responsible for themselves. They
Bob,
live
I have a
law
question.
of karma. God, what a change in the world that would.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And I have a question. With all this activity to the 2012, December 21st, 2012, there's so much talk. I mean, this is the most talked about thing going on right now on the internet and a lot of shows. I know I've talked about a lot about this myself. What information have you been given about these tumultuous times that we're going through right now?
Robert, don't get me started here. I might become profane.
Okay.
My old infantry background and my old Army training might surface here, and I might start saying words that the ladies wouldn't want to hear. But I am so fed up with BS about 2012. The nitwits and nincompoop. Too many people are making money on this thing, Bob. Okay. I talked to a Mayan shaman, Germany, some years ago. I was at a conference in Dusseldorf. This old Mayan shaman was one of the speakers. And he and I had a chance to chat. I asked him what he thought about this, the end of the calendar, and he said, you quite can screw everything up. He says, you do it every damn time. He said, you've made this whoop-de-doo out of this. He says, it's the end of a calendar. He said, it's the end of our long count. He says, we're all excited about it. He says, the Mayans who know our history, study our traditions and all, know that it's the end of an era. It's the end of a cycle. And it's the beginning of a new cycle. He says, we're excited about it. It's something to be hopeful about.
You're right. Right. There is something to be hopeful about, but and like I said, I don't believe in coincidences, but there's so many bizarre earth changes that are taking place right now, and that's why I asked that.
Robert, we human beings we live here for such a brief period of time, and when we reincarnate, we don't remember our previous lives. But we're here for 50, 60, 80 years, and that's it. These things have been going on, Bob, from the beginning of earthquakes, tidal waves, volcanoes. There's nothing new in this. Human beings think, oh, my, it's all happening. Oh, we're all doomed. Well, poppycock, balderdash, we're not doomed. This world is not finished. We're finishing a cycle, and we're beginning a new one. The Mayans that I've chatted with are very excited about it. It's the beginning of a new world, and literally what it means, it's the ending of the great year. You're familiar with the great year. Every one of the 12 signs of the zodiac, each one of those signs is 2,160. You add them all together, 12 of them, and you got 25,920. Now that is considered the great year when you complete the cycle of all 12 signs of the zodiac. Well, we're completing the Piscean age. We're completing the last sign of the great year. And that's part of what 2012 is all about. The Mayan calendar, the long count, is talking about the end of the great year. Well, I'm excited about it, and I'm not worried about it. You know, I'm so sick and tired of these people. Too much money is being made by these nincompoops who writing these books about, oh, we're all doomed. You know, the world is coming to an end. Oh, Walter.
Well, I
have no patience with that, Robert.
I agree with you. I mean, there's been a lot of doom and gloomers out there. I can name a few, but I won't out of respect. But, you know, and you're right. It is cyclical. And again, there is no linear time, but it's cyclical. These are cyclical events. We will have upheavals. It will happen. But here's the thought that just came to me when you were saying all this, is that many civilizations have been wiped out. The Sumerians, the Egyptians, of course, the Mayans, the Sumerians. These have been, of course, cataclysmic, cyclical changes on the earth. But then why do you not sit here and ask the simplest question of all? We're still here. We've survived.
Well, the human race is going to survive because the human race, no pun intended, has good friends in high places. We've got family out there, Robert, that's trying very hard to help us with this mission. I mean, literally, they're cousins. We're related.
No. They're not making it easy on us, I'll tell you that, Bob.
Well, they never planned to make it easy on us because when you're raising a bunch of troublesome adolescent children, you can't make it easy on them. You've got to smack them around a little bit with some tough love once in a while. That's the only way they grow up, for God's sake. But we are going to make it, Bob, and I will tell you that in my last words. If I dropped dead tomorrow, I would say, don't be afraid, Frick. There's nothing to be afraid of. Have courage. You're here at an exciting, and wonderful period of time where all kinds of incredible things are happening. And you're probably going to be seeing overt, face-to-face meetings with our extended family out there very, very soon. Many of us have already experienced that. Some of them are walking in our midst, for God's sake, right now. But time is going to come, and I say younger people like you are probably going to live to see it, where you can sit right down beside them and chat with them and ask them the same questions I did.
Well, the one
Bob,
question... Go ahead, Annie,
Bob,
please. I'm sorry.
No. Do you think that, back to my scenario, Betty Peace, Booty Teeth, that we have bad or malevolent ETs controlling the governments of the world, as in the New World Order, the Illuminati, or whatever, what they're doing with the mind control of peoples?
Well, I'll tell you flatly and bluntly that we have some bad, malevolent, nasty human beings running things right now. We got a bunch of nincompoops and nitwits that are so damn greedy, power mad, that they are running the program. But the thing that many of them are now beginning to slowly learn is that they really aren't in charge. They think they are. But there is a power that is beyond, that literally is looking after the whole planet. I'll tell you what I've been told, and this is the the kind of the nitty gritty on it. We're not property by any means. A number of our philosophers over the years said that they thought we were property. Charles Fort said that about 19. Thought we were property. We literally are living what I call a trust. We're under a trusteeship. And there is a board of trustees made up of several advanced intelligences that are on the board of trustees. The human species is under a trusteeship. That trusteeship trusteeship is like, have a very wealthy father who has a couple of troubled children, and he sets up a trust because he can't trust them to spend the money properly or to handle the power properly, and so he sets up this trust. Well, we're under a trusteeship, and that the board of trustees are in charge. What I find exciting and interesting is that members of the board of trustees are not even in this galaxy. Some of our more trusted and experienced remote viewers have confirmed that there is indeed what you would call a galactic federation out there. The old Star Trek thing, apparently is more truth than fiction there. There is indeed a galactic federation, and what I found exciting is the headquarters of that galactic federation isn't even in our galaxy. The universe is packed with it. About 75% of it out there is a hell of a lot farther along than we are. So as I said, we're being looked after by a board of trustees. I feel pretty hopeful because I have seen that the future is going to be bright. I make a conference presentation. I try to leave that. I really have nothing to be afraid of. Bright future for the humans going to make.
Well, thank you for quieting some of my fears and bringing me back down to earth and saying, slow down, don't worry too much, just hang on to the hope of a future, a good future.
Well, honey, you're a very bright young lady. You apparently have done some homework. But you know this, that essentially you're immortal. There's no such thing as You're going to live forever, honey. You've lived before you incarnated here, and you're going to live when you leave.
Yeah.
There's no end. So feel hopeful about it. It's going to be a glorious future.
Well, I guess becoming a grandmother does these trips on my head, too. What type of future is that child going to have? To look at it in the eyes and say, I've seen spaceships on fire off the coast of Orion, like from Blade Runner. The future is just such an unknown.
Well, as a grandmother, honey, you've been around a few years. You've got some maturity there, and I take my hat off.
Well, my mother's going to be 95 Sunday.
Well, bless her heart.
Congratulations. Wish her happy birthday from me, Annie.
Huh?
I said congratulations to her. Wish her a happy birthday for me, and may she live another 95 years.
She doesn't want to.
Don't say that, Robert.
She doesn't want to. She wakes up in her morning and goes, oh, no, not again. It's like Groundhog Day, not again.
You tell me you want me to live another 100 years, Robert, I'll probably poke you in the nose.
Well, how about at least another 5 just for me?
Well, next time we're out for dinner, we'll negotiate. Buy me a good bourbon, we'll talk about it.
Got it. Bob, I want you to tell everybody where you're going to be September 23rd, 24th, because I will be there with you. And I want this listening audience, if you're able, to please join Bob and so many great lecturers at Project Camelot. I believe it's going to be in Orange County, Bob?
Yeah, it is. It's going to be at the Orange County Airport. There's a motel there. I forget the name of it. At the Orange County Airport in county, south of L.A., 23rd, 4th. Terry Cassidy and Bill Ryan are putting together their second conference. They did one 2 years ago in Burbank, very successful, and now they're going to do another one. And Marcia, my lovely wife, and I are going to, both of us, speak there. I'm excited about it because a number of my old friends are going to be there as well. Richard Hoagland is going to be one of the speakers. Richard Dolan is going to be another one of the speakers. And Graham Hancock, guy I've known over the years, back there.
Yeah,
So I'm excited
fascinating
about
guy.
it. You know, I'm going to do my little cents worth. But I'm looking forward to meeting some old friends.
Well, can I say this? And I'm not being biased here, Bob, but I'm just simply, because when I've seen you speak, you uplift audiences, you widen their eyes, you put a smile on their face, because you're telling them something that they probably already know, but you're just reinstilling that into them. I mean, I know that you did that to me, and I was just memorized by the words that you spoke.
So, Bob, you're very kind. Thank you so much for those words. I tell people that I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. I just am reminding you of what you already know. They seem to grasp that. But again, I'm speaking. Also, I've been invited to speak at the MUFON conference in Philadelphia at the end of October. I'm kind of excited about that. And then I've been invited to speak in Johannesburg, South Africa in November. Michael Tellinger, hell of a fine young man, a scholar.
Yeah, I'm very aware of him.
So I'm looking forward to these trips. After that, you know, it's up in the air. After November, Robert, I'm not making any advanced plans.
Well, let me ask you something. If I put something together for you here in Phoenix, will you be the speaker?
Well, it'll depend on the timing, Bob. Depend on how I feel. As you probably know, I've been undergoing a series of experiment tests with a retinal specialist who saved my eyes.
I know that, and we've already talked about that, and we'll talk about that.
Every time I go to a treatment, it's a form of chemotherapy, and every time I go to a treatment, I literally out of it for about 3 days.
I know you are. And remember,
we'll
I mean, off the air,
we'll
talked.
Get together and have some dinner sometime.
Yes. And we'll talk about that at a later date. But, Bob, I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And like you've always said, we are old friends. You know it better than I do. But I feel it, and you know it, but it's the friendship, respect, honor is mutual between you and I. I have such love for you. It's hard to describe. From the very first day I met you to so many years down the road now, it's hard to describe how I feel about you. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am biased towards this man because he is an incredible human being. And you just have to simply touch his hand and look into his eyes, and you'll know what I'm talking about. And I encourage everybody to go see Bob, if you can, in Orange County at the Awaken Aware at Project Camelot, and if not there, at his other speaking engagements, because it's very important. It's one thing to hear him over the air and even to call in, but to speak with him in person, to see him speak in person is night and day. And I couldn't say anything more about it. You just have to experience it yourself.
Well, Robert, you're
and
very
I vouch for everything that he's saying because I've known Bob Dean for 20 years myself. And Bob's different. He's been there, done that, and he can tell you how it lays out.
Well, thank you, sweetheart. You're very sweet. I wish I was in Nashville tonight.
Yeah.
It's 112 degrees here today, and I wish I was damn near anywhere except Phoenix.
Oh, geez.
So whatever your weather is in Nashville, I wish I were there.
Well, it finally cooled off, and we got 4 inches of rain.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
I wish Texas had some of this.
Wish you could send a little my way.
Thank you guys for doing what you do. I'm going to buzz off here. Good night, y'all. Love you.
Good night. Good night, my lovely
Bye.
lady. And Bob, I want you, before we go, we got a minute or two, I want you to leave this audience with some words of wisdom, because I feel everybody needs it. And even me, that I become so awakened by everything, and especially when I met you, really opened my eyes. And I would love for you to leave this audience with some words of wisdom so they can take that on into this transition that we're going to.
Well, Robert, I don't know whether I have any particular words of wisdom. I'm complimented by your comments, and thank you very much. But if I can leave people with anything, I would quote my old buddy and friend from Galilee. Said, "You are as gods. What I do, you can do, and even more." I tell people that you have nothing to be afraid of. You're an immortal, infinite being. You're going to live forever. You're incarnated here for a short period of time to experience and go to school and learn a lesson or two. But for God's sake, don't get into this doomsday and fear. Don't be afraid.
Bob, I love you.
You're going to live forever.
Bob, I love you. Thank you so much. I bless you, and hopefully I will be there with you at the Awakener, where I am almost positive I'm going to be there. And I'll talk to you before then. This has been the whole agenda. This has been my very special guest, Bob Dean. Stick with us tomorrow night. We're going to have a wonderful guest. Everyone take care. Have a wonderful evening. Be safe, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Bob, I love you, and I'll talk to you very soon.
Just how quickly things can change. But what would it take? Economic collapse, massive crop failure, chemical or biological attack? So many situations could find you in the grocery looking to pick up food for your family only to find that the shelves are empty. There's nothing.
And they had to deal with them the hard way, and that was in cold weather, and the Winter War, as it's called, from that war, was a bitter campaign. But the Sumoi, or Sumi, as it was called, became a very reliable centerpiece of the firepower base for the Finnish military forces. The accuracy, though, of course, with the bolt guns they had was ultimately the critical issue because they were outnumbered dramatically. So between the weapons that they had and the fortitude to use them, they stopped one of the biggest armies on the planet dead cold, literally, pardon the pun, with these weapons. Interestingly enough, the Sumi is available with the Pan magazine, which you're so familiar with. You see with the Russian forces. Theirs was a 73. The Sumi in 9mm is a 71 round drum, and it is available for $25 from Centerfire. So you got the weapon for $450, 9mm. Now, don't think I forgot about the high point carbine, but for some people, you're looking for a base of fire weapon. This is a good little, this is a lot of firepower. You can drop somebody in front of something. The drums were made by the Finns. The reliability, the quality is very high. Also stick mags. Again, they're not just standard stick mags. These are 36 rounders, not just 30s or 20s or whatever. So the nice thing there is you've got something that's been proven. It's a military weapon, not a problem there. High points have been proven. You get about 3 to 4 high points for the price of one of these. So I understand the differential. However, there are people been asking questions about this. I don't see any problem with the weapon. They've had it at Knob Creek. Guys have been pretty satisfied with them. Of course, they fired up full auto versions on a regular basis. This is a semi-auto. Now, one of the things about this is they have the Sumi in 9mm, and this is the Rifle-SUOMI. That's the serial number that's the logo number for Centerfire. They also have the parts kits. Sumi M31 9mm parts kits for $89. At the very least, one of the things I like about these part kits is, remember, you get other goodies like springs, components, and whatever, but you get a spare stock.